Okay, so what I want to show you here is okay. So this is a guy called John Van Hazel. He's an Olympic athlete, so he's pretty good at front crawl, as you can imagine. Okay, so if we take him to the same point you're at, just take him back there. Okay, so his arm is coming over, his recovering arm is coming over. See, his front arm is starting the catch phase there. Okay, and then if you look what his recovering arm does, enters the water, stays bang straight. Okay, yours is coming over here, sideways. This is the crossover you've been spoken about before. And then what happens generally then is you end up with a bit of a leg scissor kick to counterbalance the crossing over. Okay. Now, of course, the scissor kicking will cause drag because the back end of the legs will drop a bit and will cause it to slow down. All right. Now, we haven't looked at your breathing yet in any more detail, but breathing, if you're holding water in your lungs, holding air in your lungs, it will cause your front end of your body to come up further still, which causes your legs to drop. So there's all these things kind of contributing towards your legs dropping down. Okay? So we continue to play this through. Okay, and it's happening particularly on the breathing side. So you're entering the water, then straightening up. And then what's happening is your lead arm is collapsing down, so you don't have the support to breathe. So when you're trying to, what should happen is your lead arm should stay high. You watch here, when he breathes, he'll eventually breathe or something. Just take him back a bit. He hasn't breathed yet. So when he breathes, his lead arm is high, and that provides him with a bit of stability to take the breath. Whereas if the front arm drops down when you breathe, it pulls you down, which means you feel like you have to lift your head higher above the surface of the water to get the breath. So there's something else that contributes towards you lifting your head up, wanting to lift your head. So, and again, this is called, you should always have a lead hand, you should always have a hand in the front quadrant of the stroke. The front quadrant is obviously anything kind of mid-head and above. So if you watch here, it's always got an arm. It's always got an arm extended in the front quadrant of the stroke, okay, providing that support and the stability. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so the main thing from this, again, is the crossing over, which is what you're aware of from before anyway. There are great drills that we can look at for that. Okay, and we'll go through some of those in a minute. We know we're turning our head a little bit too high and coming out of the water too high to breathe, so we can work on that as well. And the crossing of the scissor kicking of the legs here, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And what I did notice is you've got nice pointed toes. You've got nice pointed toes. You've got the beginnings of a nice kick there. It's something that we can work on.
Well, I wasn't even thinking about that, actually.
Well, you're doing that naturally. You're doing that
well,
naturally.
I think the reason I might be doing it is because I do cheat a lot of the time and use a pool boy a lot of the time. Whenever I use the pool boy, one thing I do is I consciously point my toes when I use the pool boy. Because I read that I should do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I can see that.
It's a little bit better, but it's still not right. It doesn't. Still need.
Okay. So. We're going under the water. You ready? Okay.
Oh, God.
So I just put it under the water at this stage just to show the kick. Okay. Look at your ankles there. Nice and straight. Okay. Nice pointed toes, which is great. Your toes, when you're kicking, they come in nice and closely together. I mean, that's a good kick. I mean, it needs to have more rhythm to it, and that'll come when we work on the rhythm of the stroke, and the body position will bring them up towards the surface where they should be. But I think you're going to have a decent kick when we get it all sorted out. I mean, a lot of particularly triathletes are very kind of tight in the legs, and they haven't got much flexibility in the ankles, so their feet point down, so they're like little anchors, kind of whizzing away at the bottom there. Whereas yours are nice and pointed, so that's really good. So there's good stuff.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, you do need some good stuff.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's totally demoralising.
Absolutely.
You really feel like you're not bothering.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
well, you're willing to put the work in.
Oh, I'm definitely willing to put the work in. I
yeah.
already have, and I mean, I think the swimming more so than anything else. It takes, this is what I've said to people already. It takes a long time to see any results. You can't sort of go twice a week and expect miracles to happen.
Yeah.
It really does, need to be.
Okay, right. So
I couldn't swim one length. 2 seasons ago. I couldn't swim one length.
Yeah.
I never swam a length in front pool until I was 53.
Well, you're doing very well then. I mean,
so I've got to. I'm not trying to big myself up, but if you don't tell yourself that sometimes, you've got to recognise where you've come from.
No, absolutely. Right, let's play this through. Roll it through. Okay.
But the other thing as well I noticed, which presumably is also my fingers are all splayed apart, aren't they?
Yeah.
It looks a bit wrong, isn't it?
What I'm looking at the moment is the breathing. Okay, so the head positioning and the body positioning. So at the moment, it's not too bad actually. It's not too bad. I mean, your head is right up to breathe, which is causing the body to drop down a little bit here. But it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Yeah, I can see because you're kind of curving up in this direction here.
My lower back can't take it.
And that's if you were to rotate, if you have higher position in the water, you were to rotate more. You'd be able to breathe from the rotation rather than from the lifting up. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're lifting our head right out of the water, which is causing. This doesn't like. Let me just delete those lines. It doesn't like going backwards. This thing very much. So here we go. So we lift our head. As soon as you lift your head, it causes the back end to drop. And when I'm looking at your breathing here, and you're taking a breath, and we know you're lifting your head, so we won't talk about that anymore. Taking a breath, and you are actually breathing out constantly underwater. Okay, and then I'm not sure if you're fully exhaling though.
I don't think I am. I don't think I can be.
So you are taking a breath. You're breathing out as soon as your head enters the water, which is good. So you have constant exhalation. But you should be emptying those lungs.
I mean, I've only read about it in the book, and when I did the swim smooth, the one outdoor thing I did with them, my own coach doesn't seem to bother with any of this. But these sink down drills. Do you rate that?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get you doing some of those.
So for example, with that, I've experimented with that with my daughter, who's little, obviously. Now, she can do it, and she falls straight to the bottom of the pool. I can't do it. Now that tells me the reason I can't do it is I've still got loads of air in my lungs. But I've noticed, and I've read in the books. I've got that book, it's a really good drill to do before you even start, because it also relaxes you, doesn't it?
No, it's worth doing. It's worth doing. Even if you do it a few times at the beginning of every swim session, just to remind yourself of how to fully exhale. And you're right. Most people will exhale and they'll think, that's it, I'm done. But if you don't get down to the bottom, you've still got. So you do have to kind of consciously squeeze that last bit of air, and you do realise you're actually holding quite a lot of extra in there. We'll go through that in a minute.
We'll go through that. I know that. That's the only way I know that I'm not doing it. If I'd never tried doing that, I would say, God.
Yeah. So, okay. So, again, just going back to the change of the body position. I suspect you've got quite a natural high body position, but the things that we're talking about are causing it to drop. So, your bum is close to the surface of the water. Then, as soon as you take the breath, this all drops down here. Okay. Causes the back end to drop down. There's your good pointed toes again. Okay, so far then, breathing and relaxation, sink downs. Okay, so I'll go through those with you in the pool in a minute, and I'll show you on some clips on here. Head positioning, so thinking about Popeye breathing. Okay, so that's breathing one eye in, one eye out, and then kind of almost moving your mouth to one side, like Popeye chewing his spinach, to try and get the to make a bit of extra space to get that breath in. And then body positioning drills to try and get yourself nice and in alignment and trying to stop this over rotation. Okay, you know, the over rotation when you're crossing over towards the centre line when you enter the water on your catch phase. And then we can show you some drills to do with your kick to try and improve your kick a little bit. And then on the front end, just finally, just to show you the front end of the stroke. And then there's the stroke rate as well, which we'll talk about in a minute. And the front end of the stroke. Again, if we improve your body positioning, it will allow you to improve the catch. So as your hand enters the water, you'll be in a better position to get a good catch. All right? At the moment, what's happening is your hand is coming in quite flat. You should always be spearing the water with your fingertips pointing in the direction of travel. Okay, and so the hand should spear into the water. It should always be shoulder above elbow, above wrist, above fingers. Okay, should never drop the elbow down, and the hand should never be pointing anywhere other than kind of down, slightly back. Okay, so if we play it through, what we see here is you see your upper arm come in first, and then your hand comes in last. There's your open fingertips. In actual fact, the best way to swim is with your fingers slightly apart, but not too far apart.
Yeah, because if you use those paddles, they open you out your fingers.
They do, yeah, they do.
That's why I've never been sure about those paddles or what they're supposed to be achieving, because they're encouraging you to open your fingers.
Yeah, I suppose they are, yeah. I mean, but ideally...
That's not for that reason, that's just to... Yeah.
It's just so you can keep hold of the paddle. But it does, I know what you mean, it almost will make you kind of spread your fingers out. So your fingers should be loosely spaced, okay? Then they shouldn't be wide apart. You can get more pull on the water if they're loosely spaced than if they're tightly clamped together. So what we're showing here is this lead arm is collapsing down. So you're pushing down with the water rather than pushing back. And again, what that does is it lifts the front end up, and again, that's something else that contributes towards the back end dropping down. All right. So I'll show you some clips in a minute. Straight arm. Okay, so your arm is fairly straight. Should be kind of 100 to 120 degrees, the bend in it.
At that point.
Yeah, I'll show you in a second. And then the other arm is coming in flat and straight, okay? And then we look what's happening. And that's that pause there. So you enter the water, there's nothing much happening there. That hand's not doing very much at all, it's just coming down, straight down. There's no pull, there's no propulsion there. It's just coming down. And then you start to pull back. Okay? There's the right arm coming in. The right arm comes back straight away because that's when you're breathing. On the non-breathing side, enters, stays there. I'm coming out of the water now. And there's a pause at the front end.
Oh, lovely crossover there.
Yeah.
Oh.
So let me just play this through. See if you can see the pause. So stretches out, pause. Pause is there. Pause is there. See that? Okay. Again, that will be sorted out when we start looking at tempo and timing and things like that. All right. So we go to now. This is the Swim Smooth app that I use, which is a fairly new thing that they've developed. I've got a coach's account on here, and it's great because it's got videos and drills and all that kind of stuff for you to watch. Now, I'm going to give you clips of this on this video now anyway, what you need to be doing, and obviously I'll speak to you on an ongoing basis. If you want to go in the app, you can go in and you can have a look around. You have to pay for it. It's 48 hours for free, so you can go in and have a good old look around, and then decide whether or not you want to pay longer term. I can speak to you about drills anyway, so you probably don't need to do that. But it's just something for you to consider. But I use it just because it's good for.
I've got that book though. I've got the book.
Yeah.
The book's good.
Yeah.
It's handy because you can, you've got time to look at the book.
Yeah.
All the time.
So breathing. It's breathing and relaxation. Okay. So the sink down drills you said you've done before.
Well, I've tried to, but I'm not very good at it.
Okay, I won't show you the sink down drills actually, because I'll go through those with you in a minute. But yeah, absolutely. What they do is get you used to completely exhaling, fully exhaling in a relaxed, constant stream of air coming out your mouth, and just seeing how fully you exhale.
What I'm thinking is if I'm going to concentrate on fully exhaling when I'm doing and actually swimming, then that's going to slow me down even more.
Don't worry about the speed.
By definition.
Don't worry about the speed for now. The speed will come. We sort these things out. You'll find that you'll get quicker for less effort. Okay? Don't worry about slowing your speed right this moment in time. Okay? As soon as we start to look at your body positioning and your rhythm to timing and rhythm to your stroke, and the stroke rate, your speed will come. Okay? You were swimming then at about 35, 70, about 220, 400 meters there, something like that. When you were doing the warm up, which is not a bad rate. Okay, but it's don't worry about slowing down at this stage. I think if anything, you'll improve, you'll speed up quite quickly. So head position. Okay, Popeye breathing. Let's play this for you, if it'll let me on the broadband thing.
This is a very simple way to demonstrate what we call Popeye breathing. As I go to take a breath to the side here, to the right hand side, notice how one eye stays underneath the water and the other eye pops out. If I paused the frame here, you'd actually see me taking a breath to the side with my mouth angled like Popeye would be chewing his spinach out on the side. As it were. Now this is a really good thing for you to focus on, almost like a split screen view, one eye under the water, one eye out the top, and just angling your mouth like Popeye chews his spinach on the side, just enough to clear your mouth out of the water, just beside the little bow wave and trough that forms behind that bow wave to take a breath into the side. Doing so by keeping the head low whilst you're breathing helps to keep your bum and legs up in a nice horizontal position in the water.
Okay, so that's something which just for you to be aware of at this stage. Okay, and it's easier said than done. Particularly if we're talking about what we're trying to do is get your bilateral breathing as well. So what we'll do with you is go through a drill, or it's just an exercise, bubble breathe, which I'm sure you've read about.
Yeah,
in the book as well.
I'll still say bubble breathe. I'm still doing, especially in the open water.
Okay.
Just because it helps to relax me as well. You know.
Okay, and have you done the kicking on the side drill, 616 or 636 and that kind of
Not
thing?
really.
Okay. So, kicking on the side gets you used.
I have done a bit of that with Richard. Yeah, I think the thing with Richard. I mean, he's a very good swimming coach. Don't get me wrong. He's not into any of this smooth stuff actually. And I know it's all the same, but it is actually like a slightly different way of doing things, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I know that for a fact because when the first stuff I did with him last year, which was out over water, because I remember saying something about bubble breathe, and he just says 1, 2, but that's exactly the same. So the bubble is the 2. It's just the timing, isn't it? Of the
Yeah, so actually saying it, the idea is saying it into the water. You're actually exhaling when you're speaking, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
I've been doing. So.
Well, what we'll do in combination with that, and what I'll get you to do, kind of going forward, is doing some of these drills. This is the kicking on the side drill.
But I've definitely. I mean, these are some of the things he showed me in February.
Yeah.
But so I'm taking it all in, and then the next day and and whatever, and then within a week or two, because I'm just trying to remember it, and the next thing you know, you're not doing it anymore. You just go back to swimming up and down because it, you know, you haven't got anybody there to remind you. I've got nothing written or nothing.
Well, the idea of this is I'll go through everything with you now. So you've got almost too much to work on, but it's all on the DVD for you to review. And going forward, when we're working together going forward, we'll work on the breathing and the body positioning, and forget everything else for the time being. You know, we'll come back to that. We know we need to sort that out, but I just wanted you to have for the footage the whole kind of picture, if that makes sense. So the kicking on the side drill. The idea of this is it gets you to practice.
The kick on your side drill is
It gets you to practice holding a good body position, keeping your lead arm out straight, okay? And then if we look what he's doing here, he's breathing, and he's keeping that arm straight and outstretched, whereas remember we talked about you were collapsing down a little bit, it gets you used to having that arm high, and it also gets you used to holding the arm in a straight position and not crossing over.
Yeah. We did do this actually.
Okay. Do you have fins?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is very difficult to do without fins.
Yeah, no, I've got them.
Okay. So you keep yourself nice and straight in alignment. Again, shoulder above elbow, above wrist, above fingers. And just try and stay relaxed, which is easier said than done. You need to practice the drills, and I'll go through the drills with you today, and make sure you're doing them correctly. And I've got a walkie-talkie so I can talk to you when you're actually swimming.
Brilliant.
Because it's very easy for your elbow to drop, or your hand to drift across. You don't know unless you're being told.
So you're actually on your side on that.
You're on your side. You're absolutely on your side. Yeah. Okay. So, and then a progression of that drill would be the 6-1-6, where you start to introduce a stroke. So it's kicking on the side again. It's just a single stroke. Roll onto the other side, take a breath. And here you can see where we start to introduce bilateral breathing. But because you're relaxed and you're completely on your side, you're more turned, so you'll be able to find it easier to breathe on your non-favoured side. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Makes sense for doing it.
Doesn't mean I can do it.
I know what you mean.
Definitely makes sense.
But the drills need practicing, which is what we'll go through in a minute. All right. So we'll have a look at that. Don't worry. I can sense though. And then again, a progression of that, and it starts to introduce more of a stroke. 6-3-6. So same thing, kicking on the side, 3 strokes. And again, because it's every third stroke, you're breathing on both sides, right? So they're the kind of the breathing. So Popeye breathing, sink downs, bubble breathe, in conjunction with kicking on the side, 6-1-6 and 6-3-6. All right. So they're the kind of the main drills to start with. Now, we also have a look at the torpedo drill. So the torpedo drill is, rather than, you said your back hurts because you're arching your back to breathe. Does your back hurt when you try and do a lot of kicking? Because you've got a kickboard up in front of you and you're kind of...
Not too badly, no. Not
okay.
Not always.
Okay. I'm not a massive fan of kicking with a kickboard because you're holding your upper body up out of the water, and that's not a natural streamlined position for you to be in. So the torpedo kick drill is much better because you're only kicking for half a length, or for as long as you can actually kick and keep your head in the torpedo position and head down. So as soon as you run out of puff, you come up and then you start to breathe, you start to swim out normally.
Right.
So it allows you to concentrate on a good strong leg kick. Now we've said already that your flexibility in your ankles looks quite good, and you actually have a decent kind of shape to your kick. But I think this drill is worth doing because it makes you think about holding a nice streamlined body position still, and we can experiment with kicking and tapping your toes when you swim. which makes sure that you kind of your legs are together more often than they would otherwise be potentially, and that your feet are in the right position, because obviously you wouldn't be able to tap toes if your feet weren't in the correct position. And then swimming it out just makes you think about swimming more easily, but still continuing to tap the toes and keep your legs in that good position. All right. So the purpose of the torpedo drill then is just for you to hold a nice streamlined position, practice on your kick, a good strong kick for the first part of the drill, and then you swim it out. Okay. And all you think about when you're swimming it out is your kick. Forget about your head position and your breathing and all that kind of stuff, because that'll be too much for you to think about. Just think about your kick when you're doing the torpedo drill. All right. So let's get rid of all this talking. Yeah, just push off. Let's take it back a bit. Let's take it back now. Gone too far now.
So that is quite a fast kick.
Yeah, so it's a good hard kick.
As hard as you can.
So he pushes off and he stays like that for as long as he can. And he'll run out of puff eventually and then come up, and he actually stops and has a bit of a chat there. But what you can do is you can just continue to swim it out normally to the end of the length. All right? So we'll go through that. Kind of looking at the clock because we've run out of time a little bit. So that's the torpedo drill. And then we can we'll speak about your kind of timing and things a little bit later. Maybe that might be something for another session. But they all kind of almost end up with too much to kind of look at.
Yeah.
And what I finally want to look at is, just so as you've got it on the footage here, on the DVD, is the arm entry. So spearing into the water, and then the catch. Okay, do you remember your catch was quite, your arm position, I said it was quite straight. So take this back. So that's straight there. If I try and, in fact if I show you this on here, in fact, that was a good shot there. I'll take it back. If you look at Rebecca Adlington here, I'll take it back a little bit more. Trying to get it under the water. Here we go. Look at the angle in her arm here. If you pause it. See, that's the angle we want to be looking for. Okay, so yours is kind of straight down because that gives you the leverage to pull back, and you're using different muscles if you kind of rotate and use your arm in that position. You're using your kind of your lats and your pecs rather than your shoulders, which is what you're using if you pull with a straight arm back. So some drills for that, just so as again you've got it on here, would be sculling drill. So skull number 1 is the kind of the early part of the catch. Okay, so it's just constantly backwards and forwards, like you're mixing at the front end. You won't travel forwards very much if you're not doing it correctly. It's quite a slow drill anyway. You're not going to go
I've done
shooting
the
forward.
club sessions I've been to, I've done those, but I haven't been to many club sessions. But when I have done, this is sculling drills we always do.
Yeah.
The ones I've been to, we have.
Yeah.
And then there's the one where you're a bit more.
Yeah, so that's the skull. Skull number 2. Should be down here somewhere, maybe. Skull number 2. Okay, so that one a bit further down, a bit deeper.
Yeah.
It's kind of the mid phase of the stroke. Same kind of thing, but a lower kind of position.
I'm never quite sure what they're doing then. I know you just said it's to do with the catch. I never
It's
feel
to
like
do
I
with.
understand what they're actually achieving.
It's to do with having your arm, having your almost like, have you heard of reaching over the barrel? That's the kind of position your arms should be in when you're swimming, when you're doing front crawl, because it means that you're kind of reaching forward and it makes sure you have a higher elbow. I'll demonstrate it with you in a minute. And it kind of gets you to practice being in that position rather than dropping your elbows. Because as soon as you drop your elbows, your hands go up. And that puts the brakes on. You want to be this way, pushing back, not that way, pushing forwards. And that's what those drills are for. And then the doggy paddle drill, which gets you used to having a good bend in the arm and pulling back. So you see how Paul in this clip here is pushing forward, nice straight arm going forward, and then a bend in the elbow, same as Rebecca Adlington was, kind of 90, 100 degrees, something like that, and pulling and pushing straight back. So that's the idea of that drill. All right, it's practicing getting that catch and the pull through. Okay, but it's worth maybe over the next couple of days go on here and go on the app, and you get 48 hours and just go through some of the drills and spend some time watching them. All right, so I think they're the key elements for now. I'm conscious we're going to run out of time to actually go through anything at this rate. So let's get you back in the pool, all right? Yep. And we'll start going through some bits and bobs, all right? But I'll stop this now.